East Africa faces growing clampdown on dissent. Kenya's recent crackdown on protests has intensified fears that East African governments are increasingly aligning to suppress dissent, mirroring the repressive governance patterns long associated with Uganda and Tanzania. Sadly, this trend is not unique to East Africa. Across the continent, many governments continue to wield state power against their own citizens. Regional blocs that should serve as guardians of democratic standards and protectors of civic freedoms instead appear more invested in shielding abusive regimes from accountability. In recent months, Kenya has drawn widespread criticism after police used lethal force against demonstrators protesting government policies. Rather than addressing public grievances, authorities have moved to restrict media coverage and tighten control over public discourse. Kenyan Interior Minister Kipchumba Murkomen defended the police actions as necessary to prevent an attempted coup, but the Law Society of Kenya strongly condemned what it called brute force and unnecessary aggression. This crisis is deepened by the failure of the judiciary, which has too often acted as an appendage of the executive rather than an independent check on its power. As a result, ordinary citizens are left with little recourse, trapped between an unaccountable government and compromised institutions. Observers warn that Kenya risks descending into the same authoritarian patterns seen in Uganda and Tanzania, where opposition leaders face intimidation, imprisonment, and even abduction. In Uganda, opposition figure Kizza Besigye remains detained on treason charges, while in Tanzania, opposition leader Tundu Lissu and activist Maria Sarungi Tsehai have endured repeated arrests and harassment. Human rights advocates, including Kenya's Martha Karua, have sounded the alarm over a growing regional democratic crisis. They accuse the governments of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania of coordinating efforts to silence critics across borders, pointing to incidents such as the cross-border arrest of Besigye in Nairobi and the detention of Kenyan and Ugandan activists in Tanzania. The erosion of civic freedoms is not confined to East Africa. In West Africa, governments are employing similar tactics, using law enforcement and digital repression to muzzle dissent. In Nigeria, for instance, authorities have targeted activists like Omoyele Sowore, Very Dark Man, VDM, Peter for Nigeria, and Aisha Yesufu, as well as pressuring social media companies to shut down platforms that challenge official narratives. Despite growing international concern, regional and global organizations, including the African Union and the United Nations, have largely remained silent. This inaction emboldens repressive leaders and deepens the sense of impunity. As African governments increasingly unite to stifle dissent, citizens must respond with equal unity and resolve. The greatest threat to corrupt regimes today is not armed resistance, but the rapid spread of truth, the collective voice of the masses that transcends borders and challenges tyranny in real time. Join Dissent in addressing leadership challenges that hinder Africa's path to progress. We believe in fostering a vision that drives Africa towards sustainable development and genuine transformation. Dissent, empowered by Africans in diaspora.